Jack spent all his time going around the AA meetings, promoting this halfway house. He didn't have any transportation, and he called me up. He says, I heard about a couple of different houses. He says, would you mind taking me around and showing, helping me? And at the time I was nursing a bad back and had a lot of time on my hands. So oh boy, the houses he looked at, I said, Jack, the only thing they can do with that is throw a can of gasoline on and light a match to it. You can't do anything. Well, we didn't even get out of the car. Well, he and another member of the group, Ken Maxwell, were friends before he went to the joint. And Ken was a sales manager for an automobile agency out on Lake City Way, and he was sort of his own boss. And he hauled Jack around, looked at several houses. One day he called, he said, boy, he says, I got an ideal spot. He said, it's really, really, Dan, it's exactly what we need. I says, where is it? He says, down on Spruce Street in Seattle. So I and Ken met him, we had a cup of coffee and went down and looked at this house, which would turn out to be our first the Pioneer Fellowship house. Jack said, we need this. And I said, well, have you been in it? No, it's all boarded up, and it's been closed since between the two world wars. But I know we can fix it up. So anyway, he found the guy that had some information on it. And the guy happened to be an alcoholic. And Jack got it, we're going to show this house. So he spread the word around to all AA groups. And we're going to show it on a Saturday morning, 10 or 11 o'clock. I got down there by 9:30. There was at least 75 cars parked around that place. There were people all over in the front yard and the porches and all over. And the guy that had the key didn't show up. So there we milled around for a while, and we walked around, tried to get in the window, and it all boarded up. And finally they discovered that the transom above the front door was loose. And somebody had a 2x4, and they propped it over and said, who's the smallest guy? I guess I was the smallest guy there. So they boosted me up, and I got about halfway through the transom. They handed me a 2x4, and I don't remember exactly how I think I broke the doorknob off. Anyway, we got the door open. Couldn't even get in. It was just cobwebs from top to bottom. You could hear critters scampering around in there. Nobody wanted to go smell musty. So a couple of weeks later, he said, hey, he says, I got a hold of the guy that can do something and get us this house. And I said, well, that's great. What are we going to do with it when we get it? Oh, well, we'll figure that out. Okay. He said, it's going to cost $300 to get into it. He said, I only have a couple $100 from my prison pay.
So they found this place at 1102 East Spruce. And then, of course, then they had to get some money, and then they were passing the hat, trying to figure out how we're going to raise some money, and all of us knew each other and would kind of squeeze the other guy for a little money. And
so we got in the house and made all kinds of help. There was old furniture, old beds. The only thing we saved out of the house was an old desk, and that was Jack's office. And as we went along, a friend of his got out of prison, John Boggs. John was a real character. I don't think he ever committed anything violent. He was a pickpocket, and he's a con man. And John was our first manager there. So we got the house open, got it full, and always had a waiting list. And Jack set down the rules. The first two rules, one was that you had to be sober for 3 days before you came in. The second was that they had to pay $25 a week room and board, if they could afford it. I never remember anybody ever paying $25 a week.
The fellowship house was guys coming out of prison. Jack would get them a place there.
After it was open for a little while, he decided we've got to find jobs for these guys, and nobody wanted to hire them.
Jack kept saying, hey, we got to get these people off their butts here, you know, this just isn't a warehouse. We got to find something for them to do. And he says, we're going to start a sheltered workshop, which was the beginning of their industry.
The Industries was in a little shop down on First Avenue and First and Denny. It's kind of a small little operation, and Jack pretty much supervised it. And he was scrambling to get contracts.
And the year that Harold Heath took over as president, he got us some work with Boeing's making insulators. And Boeing's were paying about $4 a piece for those. And we had 8 or 10 guys sitting at the table, sanding them all down by hand, and we started making some money.